Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and we're here to do my tips and predictions for round 2 of the 2023 NRL season. Now, I feel like last week I didn't do that well. I can't even think off the top of my head which ones I got right and which ones I got wrong, but I feel like there were a fair few upsets or some surprising results. There was also some games that went exactly how I thought they would. So, look, a bit of a mixed bag last week, but the first round is always a hard one to predict. In general, like the first couple of rounds are always hard because you don't really have any form to go off. I know there's trials and, you can go off last year and stuff, but with all new signings and new teams essentially and literally a new side, it's very hard to predict things. A part of me is like, oh, well, maybe the Dolphins could have won. But then, like, last week, I was so adamant that there was absolutely no chance. So it does show how just 1 week and one result can just change things big time. I was sitting here last week saying that the Roosters were probably going to win the comp, and now I'm going, oh, well, they need to change the halves if there's any chance of winning the comp. Literally, there's 1 week can do that. So it shows you either how bad I am at tipping or, how reactionary I can be at times, but hey, nonetheless, going to go ahead and do my tips and predictions for round 2. So the very first game is the Panthers up against the Rabbitohs. I was going to say grand final rematch. It's not quite this year's grand final, but the year before, I would say Panthers lost last week, which was somewhat surprising, although I did sit here and say that I thought the Broncos were a good chance of winning it, and obviously they came out and won, and I know it was 1 point, but it didn't feel like it was a 1 point game. It felt like Panthers were definitely off the mark by quite a bit, and I suppose it says a lot about Penrith that they looked as bad as what they did in my opinion, and they still lost by 1 point to a team that I would say is a chance of making the top 8, maybe even the top 4 depending on form and just injuries and that sort of stuff. But Broncos are definitely a good side. They'll be better with Reece Walsh back this week, but look, Panthers, they weren't great. Rabbitohs were pretty good. Rabbitohs pretty good. A win against the Sharks, decent little result. The only thing is Latrell Mitchell, I think he is going to play, but at the same time, is he actually going to be fit? He could pull out last minute. It's very hard for me to actually sit here and tip either of these sides, just because of how close in ability I think both these sides are. I'm just going to quickly look at the Rabbitohs side again. The Panthers side. Just the back row, Luke Garner is just not doing it for me. Mitch Kenny, they seem to insist on starting him. They did it with Coruscant, so they're definitely going to do it with Sonny Luke, but literally, the Panthers look like a completely different side when they had Sonny Luke. And I don't know if that's just... Okay, I do know. It is Mitch Kenny. Mitch Kenny cannot play big minutes at the hooker position if there's any chance of winning the comp this year. Sonny Luke needs to play more. Thought Spencer Leniu was quite good last week, but the bench is very, very weak. And that's where I feel like Panthers probably let down compared to previous years. It's just a fact that the Rabbitohs bench and even their fullback in general is quite inexperienced as well. They've got Daniel Fafita there. They've got Michael Cheekham in the starting side. Then you look at the bench, it's a lot of youngsters as well. So it's not like they're stacked on the bench by any means. Look, I'm going to go the Panthers on this one just because they've lost 2 games in a row. I know it's only one NRL game, but they lost a big game in the World Club Challenge that they definitely were trying to win. Rabbitohs, they're sitting okay. If they lose this game, it's not the end of the world. I think they'll want to come out and win it, obviously, but I'm going to go Panthers. I'm going to go 1-12. I think it'll be a tight one. I think Rabbitohs at stages might have the lead. Might go back and forth a little bit, but I think a home game for the Panthers. I know they lost last week, but I think they're going to break the streak. And it's crazy to sit here and be like, they lost one NRL game. They need to break the streak, but it's literally how it's been. The last couple of years have been so dominant. Moving on to Friday night footy. The first game is the Parramatta Eels taking on the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Sharkies, they weren't that far off, I guess. Parramatta also not that far off as well. Took a golden point try to Harry Grant for the Storm to beat them. But at the same time, I thought Eels played pretty terrible. The Storm Eels game was not a good quality game in my opinion. A lot of drop ball, a lot of errors, not a lot of attack going on. They would definitely need to be much improved. Just have a look at the lineups real quick. I know there's no Nico Hines for the Sharks, and I think he is a big loss, but Trindle looked alright. I think he kicked a 40-20. Look, he is decent, but for the Eels, another week with Josh Hodgson, another week with Cartwright and Dory getting a little bit adjusted to being the starters again. It's been a couple of years since they've been starters, I should say, but the bench for the Sharks is so strong. So for that reason, I am going to be going the Sharks. I think the Sharks bench will just overpower them. You got guys like McInnes coming off the bench. Just a fantastic side. And I think last week they weren't that far off. This week, I think they will get the job done. I think it'll be another close one. I think the Eels will stay with them. And it feels weird to sit here and be like, Eels starting the season 0-2 as well. But they're just coming up against another good side, and that is the Sharkies. And I'm predicting the Sharks to win 1-12. On to the second game of Friday Night Football, Queensland Derby. It feels weird. This used to be the game. Now there's a couple of them with the Dolphins and the Titans being there. But it is the Broncos up against the Cowboys, and I'm expecting this to be one hell of a game. Traditionally, this has always been a pretty good game. I'm expecting this one to be a pretty good game. You got the Broncos who won last week. Cowboys won last week, but they did it a lot tougher than I anticipated. The Raiders definitely pushed them. I thought Cowboys, especially when they got a pretty decent lead, I thought they were going to go on with it. Didn't happen. So that begs the question, can they beat the Broncos who just beat Penrith? Now, this game will probably represent where Broncos really are. Like, where Penrith just not that good coming into this year. Or the Broncos the real deal? Did they just beat a really good side in Penrith? We'll find out, because I think Cowboys are going to be a top 4 side. So, picking a winner of this one, it is quite difficult. Top of my head, I'm tempted to go the Broncos because it's at home, but Cowboys are so consistent for so long. But you know what? Let's go a little upset here. I think this would be classed as an upset. Let's go the Broncos. I'm going to go the Broncos 1-12. I think this would be another tight one. But the Broncos last week showed enough that they can be gritty. And I feel like Ezra Mann's looking good. He's looking a lot more comfortable. Carrigan was good. Payne Haas, the backs are back to form. Jesse Arthurs was quite good on the wing. But you have Reece Walsh coming back into the side. I think he'll be a big inclusion. And I think for that reason, I think that might push him over the edge there. And might get the Broncos the win. So, look, Cowboys, a little bit disappointing for me last week despite them winning. I thought Raiders aren't a great side and Cowboys sort of did it tough. So, yeah, I'm going to go Broncos 1-12, home game, home crowd, getting them over the line. Now on to Super Saturday. Couple teams, well actually a team that was quite disappointing, which is the Sydney Roosters taking on New Zealand Warriors. Warriors picked up a win. Controversial a little bit, but they still picked up the win, while the Roosters got absolutely pumped. You could argue that they were definitely the biggest disappointments of the round, considering all the talk of them winning the premiership, coming out and losing to a side that is a brand new side. I know they have Wayne Bennett. I know they bought the whole Storm forward pack. But the Dolphins, no one predicted the Dolphins actually win this game. A couple people were hoping for it. But everything said that the Roosters should win this one, and they should win it well, and they didn't. Everything also says they should beat the Warriors well. But because of last week, it's so hard to sit here and be like, yeah, no, they're going to win. But I am going to sit here and say the Roosters are going to win. I can't see them losing back-to-back games to start the season. They got too many winners in that side. I've talked about, the Roosters get talked about a winning culture all the time. I don't think they win premierships all the time, but they definitely win enough games to have somewhat of a winning culture. And, I feel like that's going to get them over the line. Warriors looked very, very good last week. Jackson Ford was pretty good. Wade Egan probably played his best game in a while. Chance was back there. Just a very solid side, but I just can't see them getting the job done away from home against a team like the Roosters, who literally got embarrassed last week. So I think the Roosters are going to hit back, and I think they're going to win well. I think it's going to be 13 plus, to be honest. I think they're going to come out absolutely fired up, raring to go, raring to get this win. Now we're going to move on to the second game of Super Saturday. It's the Dolphins. I was going to say Redcliffe. It just doesn't sound right just calling them the Dolphins, but I guess they are the people's Dolphins. Get your fins out. The Dolphins take on the Raiders. I thought the Raiders, like I've already discussed this a little bit earlier, I thought they looked a lot better than what I thought they would. At the same time, though, the Dolphins looked a lot better than I thought they would. Like, they were so much better. Like, I literally thought they were going to get absolutely pumped by the Roosters. Roosters looked very complacent. Dolphins were really up for it. Now, is that going to be a one-off, or is that going to be actually how they play going forward? Now, for me, I think the Dolphins actually win this one. Home crowd's there. I think the home crowd, I wasn't sure if there was going to be actually that strong of a home crowd, but the chants were going, the players were proud to play. They've just come off a big winner against the Roosters, so they're going to be full of confidence. And although last week they would have been very up for it, them playing at home again, and this is a game that they probably will go, like, we can win this one for sure. Like, we definitely have to win this one. Whereas the Roosters, you'd be thinking that maybe they hope they win, but they're not sure. Whereas this one, they're going, yeah, no, we're going to smoke the Raiders. I can see it happening. I thought the Haas looked good. I thought Cherry Marshall-King looked outstanding. Where was that for the Bulldogs for a couple of years? Last year was pretty good, I'll say that. Guys like Asako was good. The Hammer probably played the best game he's played at fullback. Everything sort of, I guess the stars aligned last week. Can they align again? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Dolphins 13 plus. I think once they get a go on, I think they'll be good. I think you'll see a couple of tries scored, a lot of tries scored, I should say. So I'm going to go Dolphins 13 plus. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. I was sitting here a couple of weeks ago saying they would barely win a game, and here I am talking about them going 2-2. I can't believe that. I mean, the Raiders are a team that can just hit back anytime. They've got enough good players, your Jack Whitens and such. They can win a game in themselves, but I'm tipping the Dolphins here. Now to the last game of Super Saturday. I don't know if this is going to be super. I'm sitting here wearing a Bulldogs hat, got the blue hat on. It's my Bulldogs travelling to Melbourne, taking on the Melbourne Storm, who got, yet again, another win in round one. Now, the only saving grace for me is the Bulldogs lost. They obviously lost well. They got absolutely smashed by Manly. But Manly are going to be a good side in 2023. And also, it's worth noting that the Bulldogs probably played one of the worst games I've ever seen a lot of them play. Your Matt Burtons, even Addo Carr. Kick out probably hasn't played that bad since the grand final. A lot of guys who, apart from Reed Marnie essentially, and like Max King, probably played the worst game they've played in years. And still the first half was quite competitive. I think just the sin bin just really killed us. Flanagan getting sin bin. They scored 2 tries before and after half time as well, which is going to kill everything. But look, I'm expecting a hit back from the Bulldogs. Whether they win is another story. But look, I'm just going to check who they're actually playing because Cameron Munster is out. They've got Tyrone Wishart named in at 5A. But we've seen with the Storm, anybody could actually play there. I think in the past they've played guys like Chris Lewis and stuff in at 5'8". Even when they've had options like Cooper Johns and that, now they've got Tyrone Wishart. I'm not sure. I feel like he probably is a halves player who just plays in every other position just because he has to. But yeah, I would not be surprised if Nick Meaney ends up in the halves and they chuck someone else in at fullback. He's done it before, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But regardless, this is probably one of the weaker sides you're going to see from Melbourne. Xavier Coates also was injured, but he is named. And yeah, the Bulldogs, you'd expect them to hit back. So I'm gonna go with my head here, and I'm not gonna tip the Bulldogs. I'm gonna tip the Storm. I think it's gonna be a close one. I think it's gonna be 1-12. It's not the ideal start for the Bulldogs. 0-2. I was hoping we can get off to a nice start this year, but I just don't think it's going to be the case. I think it's going to be quite disappointing to start off the season, and then we'll kind of build on it as the season goes. But yeah, Storm 1-12. I just can't tip them at Melbourne. If it was at a home game, possibly I could tip the Bulldogs, but I just can't do it here. So yeah, Melbourne 1-12. Now on to Sunday. Also, I should note, I will mention that Manly do have the bye. I should mention at the start of the videos. I'm just not used to there being a bye. But the first game is the West Tigers up against the Newcastle Knights. Arguably one of the most disappointing sides with the West Tigers. A lot of hype, very similar to the Bulldogs. However, for me, I felt like the Tigers had a very winnable game. Bulldogs were up against Manly, who just won the preseason tournament. But the Tigers were up against the Titans, who are very, we're not sure about the Titans. We're not sure where they are. There could be a bottom 4 side. Could be a top 8 side. I don't really know where I stand on the Titans at this point. But the Tigers, I thought, yeah, they could win this one. If there's ever going to be a game, it's going to be this one. A home game for them as well, I'm pretty sure. And they came out and looked absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. They just don't have the backs. They've got a lot of good forwards. Even the halves are decent. Sort of decent. But yeah, the backs just aren't there. And the Newcastle Knights actually looked fairly decent. So I'm tempted to tip the Knights here. I think the Knights are going to be quite gritty. And I think that might not suit the Tigers. But yeah, it is hard to go against the Tigers just because of how much hype was going into the season, but I am leaning towards tipping the Newcastle Knights here. In fact, I am going to tip the Newcastle Knights. Probably unlucky to lose last week. I thought Ponga looked half decent in the parts that I saw. The forward pack is always fairly strong for them. The back's fairly strong. You've got Dom Young, Dane Gaggai's back for them. Lockie Miller's got another week playing there, so yeah, I'm expecting a better performance from both of these sides, and I think the Knights are going to win, but I have no confidence in saying that, you know what I mean? I can't sit here and be like, yeah, it's definitely going to happen. It's just both of these sides are so inconsistent, so I don't know. But, they got Api Coruscant. Tigers could definitely win this one. In fact, I'm going to change it. I'm going Tigers. I'm going Tigers 1-12. Coruscant's just change it for me. Surely he plays more minutes than last week. On to the last game, we see the Dragons. I think it's a new look Dragons from... maybe not, actually. I've just seen the ins and outs. It doesn't have anybody. They have Mbai in at hooker, Jaden Sullivan, Ben Hunt, the halves, and Tyrell Sloan at the back. So it's very inexperienced. They are coming up against a side in the Titans that did win last week. But again, I can't sit here and say confidence the Titans are going to come out and play like they did last week. They're just a side like that where one week they play fantastic, the next week you look at them and you're like, how did you do that last week? I don't understand. And the Dragons also a side that are usually pretty decent to start the season, pretty gritty, get the wins that you don't think they're going to win, but I don't know this year. I've picked them for the spoon, and for that reason, even just going off the side that they've actually named, I'm going to be going the Gold Coast Titans. I think Titans probably come out and win this one 13+. I think Dragons will compete, and they'll defense will be pretty solid as they always are, but then I think the Titans will kind of run away with it. I'm assuming Brimson's playing 5'8" for them. They've named Kieran Foran, but he's injured for sure. So I think Brimson probably end up playing in the halves and Jaden Campbell comes in, or vice versa. Either way, I think they're going to have plenty of points in them. I think Titans win this one. Anyways, that's how I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on my tips and predictions? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they just absolutely terrible? Most likely terrible. But let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. Also, let me know your tips. I think it would be interesting to get your tips and predictions. Maybe help me out. Maybe give you some tips for next week. Maybe some pointers. Maybe give me some help in the fantasy team department. But yeah, go and leave a comment, leave a like. Definitely helps out. All the likes help. All the subscriptions help. Even if you want to become a member, everything helps on the channel, guys, especially at this point in the season where we're sort of getting back going again. Definitely go and do that. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, use the notification bell. You know the gist of things here. You know the whole shtick. Just go ahead and do that. Also, follow me on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke on YT for the most part. My Facebook's Mr. Luke, but everything else, including Snapchat, including TikTok, is Mr. Luke on YT. Give me a follow, give me an ad. Probably the most active on Instagram. Go ahead and give me a follow. Definitely need to make it a public account again. Also, I've been uploading on TikTok as well, so go and give me a follow on that. But guys, that's where I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content on the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya!